What's up, guys? So today on the podcast, we have my buddy Brandon Mccaghren. Brandon is down. He's a black belt. He's a 10th Planet black belt down in Decatur, Alabama. And that's not, I know it's not a good Alabama impression, so don't get angry at me if you're from Alabama and you feel offended by that. But anyway, Brandon's on the show and he's talking about with us. He's going to be talking about, we talk about a lot of stuff because Brandon and I are buddies and we'll go off the rails and he's an easy guy to talk to. But primarily we're talking to him about his professional grappling federation, the PGF. So one of my students has been competing in it. It's a really neat idea of this ongoing competition, almost like a basketball like playoff type thing. It's a really interesting concept that he'll talk about in the podcast. But I think it's really interesting. It's something where hopefully it continues to go and I can help jump into it and support it as well, because I think it would be great to offer more competition to people. So again, he'll talk more about that during the podcast. As always, guys, thank you guys for being with us, and big thanks to our sponsors. First one is obviously Charlotte's Web. We've been talking about them forever. I found a really interesting statistic the other day that said, and again, this is one of the reasons why I like Charlotte's Web, is that 70% of like CBD products, and I didn't really realize this, but apparently the American Medical Association says that 70% of CBD products, based on the ones that they sampled, don't contain the CBD stated on their labels. So basically it'll say you get this much CBD, this much cannabinoids, whatever. And it's not necessarily true. It's all over the place. And I thought that was interesting because I remember back in the day when I first got into CBD, because I was like trying to take it, and I started taking it mainly for like muscle aches and pains and to help me sort of support my training and stuff like that. And I noticed that when I would use different, types of CBD, like the effects were not always the same. Sometimes I would take it and I would literally feel high. And then other times I would take it like a different brand and I felt nothing at all. And so one of the things with Charlotte's Web is that they're third-party tested, which I think is an important thing with an unregulated product, which means that everything that it says it's in there is in there, right? So basically, if it says it's got this much CBD, that's what it's got in there. And so you can kind of trust on that a little bit. And, and I'm happy for that because, again, since I've started using CBD, again, it's been a useful thing for as far as sleep support, sort of stress and all of those different areas, along with aches and pains. And again, just as because I'm weird, I recently cut off my CBD for a little bit. I was like, let me see if it's really helping, because for me, like I use things for so long that I kind of want to remind myself that they're working. I'll do this with like caffeine or everything really, and I stopped using it for about a week. And the first couple nights I did not notice anything, and then after about towards the end of the week, my sleep just was not as strong. I wouldn't sleep as long. I wasn't sleeping as soundly. And then I had to start using the CBD, and a couple days into it, I guess once it saturates back into the system, I was sleeping again like a baby. And so again, I really like it for those reasons. It really helps as far as recovery and everything for me personally goes. So anyway, with that said, guys, if you want to try some CBD, again, that's my encouragement to you is, again, try it out and see what you think. Everybody's a little different. So if you guys want to try out a little CBD, save a little bit of money and see if it works for you, you can go to charlottesweb.com and use the promo code Jiu-Jitsu, save 15% on the order. And you can just get a tincture or some gummies or whatever it is that you want to try and see if it works for you. If it works, great. Then you'll be on the bandwagon with me. If you don't think it works and you think it sucks, well, then you save some money and you realize it didn't work, and no big deal. But for the most part, more than often, the people I talk to say that it's really helped them. So check it out. Also, big thanks to Epic Roll. Once I get back into the gym with some to do a rolling video, I'm going to be rolling in Matt's Urban Legend rash guard. He sent that one to us recently, and it's an interesting thing. So I'm going to be wearing that a little bit. But again, you can check out Matt's website at epicrollbjj.com. Promo code Jiu-Jitsu, save 15% on the order. And Matt puts together a lot of different t-shirt designs, gi designs, things like that. He has the one that I shared on my Instagram about a month back with like the triangle choke definition, and he's got the Urban Legend rash guard that he just released, which is it's such a hard picture to explain. So if you it's like just a big conglomeration of conspiracy theories and like urban legends and stuff like that mixed into a rash guard. So if you want to check that out, go even if you just want to take a look at the picture, go over to Epic Roll BJJ and check it out. But I'm going to be rolling in that rash guard here in the next couple of days. And then guys, if you want to support the podcast, you can always go to our Patreon at patreon.com/ the Jiu-Jitsu podcast. And then again, our Patreon's available to you. It'll give you a bunch of extra content. Like we just got done talking to Brandon, getting a little bit of extra conversation in that's in the back into that. And we do that with every one of our guests. There's also some videos on there, everything from full like length rolling with me and different people, full length seminars, everything else. And it's for $7. I mean, again, it's a lot of stuff for $7. Even if you got it for 1 month and digested the information, I mean, I don't think you physically could at this point because there's so much of it. But if you physically just had nothing to do with your day, you could pay for $7. You could get it, and then you could go through all that information, and you can cancel the next month if you wanted to. But there's a lot of cool stuff in there. So check it out and help support the podcast if you enjoy it. And again, the patreon.com is, or it's patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu podcast. Also, last thing I'm going to mention to you guys is I get messages about this all the time. I had a guy the other day, he sent me a message. He joined my email list. So basically Monday through Friday, sometimes Saturday, I send out an email, typically in the morning or early afternoon, about anything. It could be all kinds of different stuff. Sometimes it's a story, sometimes it's an experience, sometimes an idea, sometimes it's a Q&A, all kinds of different stuff. But I send out an email every day to different people and for different stuff, whatever. And the guy was like, dude, he's like, I totally didn't know that you sent these emails out, whatever. And so he signed up. And then there was another guy that said, he got really upset. He said, man, he goes, Chewy, for some reason, I'm not getting your emails anymore. And it was because of, he got somehow the system glitched or whatever, and he was not getting my emails. He said, dude, he's like, these were part of my routine. My daily routine was to read a Chewy email and drink my coffee when I wake up in the morning. So again, if you did not know, or if you'd like to join the email list, you can go to my website at chewjitsu.net, because .com was taken, and you can go to chewjitsu.net and you can check. There's I have a thing, it's like a free jiu-jitsu ebook. I give away a couple different free resources there. You can get those free resources. You can sign up for the email list. And if for some reason you don't like the emails, you can always unsubscribe, or you can join the other, it's like, I think it's 27,000 or something people they're reading them every day. So if you guys want to do that, check it out. And guys, with all that said, that long-winded intro, let's talk to Brandon. What made you want to do this anyway? Because again, it was kind of like, I remember you and I were going to have that cool thing in Chicago, which didn't happen, which sucked. I was really looking forward to that, but kind of sitting around in this COVID stuff, we're getting out of it, and all of a sudden, boom, there's this, like, you're doing this league. Where did that idea come from? Like, what was kind of the thing to drive you forward to do it?
Well, I've been wanting to do a league for a long time. I just didn't have. I've been like slowly working it out for a couple of years. Because I wanted to have something where the first thing that made me think of it was I wanted something where our guys could compete regularly and inexpensively.
Sure.
Right. And so my first attempt at that was we tried to put, and we did this and we still do it, but a couple of my friends at Triad, Daniel O'Brien, Daniel Wisnant, those guys, they got a couple of locations around. And we were doing like we started doing our in-house tournaments together. And we made them super cheap, and we did like 3 a year. You know what I mean? So that was nice. So it's, low pressure for our white belts and blue belts, not that much money. You don't got to travel all day long. And we're going to do it often. We'll make sure you get 2 or 3 matches that day, no matter what, that kind of stuff. And so that was the way that we did that at first. But I wanted to have like higher stakes tournament, like a little extra pressure, but regularly. And so that's the idea that kind of sparked it initially. And then the other thing is I feel like, how like with a jiu-jitsu tournament, you get really excited the week of, and then you watch it, and then it's over. You know what I mean? Like you watch the lead-in show or whatever, but then it's just, okay, well, where do these guys go next for their tournament or nothing? So but with like Alabama football, like if you're an Alabama football fan, you're a football fan all year long, not just on Saturday. Like during the week, you're hearing sports radio and you're following the recruiting in the off season and all of that stuff. So like all the things that make you a fan are not on game day. Right. So I wanted to do something where we could have like a way to be a fan of jiu-jitsu for the season. And then I needed to make sure it was sub only too. That was the other big thing, because I didn't want to have to deal with a bunch of like referees and controversy. How do we do it sub only? Then we'll just count the point. If you want to do sub only, then a draw has to be a thing.
Yeah.
Or no time limit. And so we had to have a way to work a draw in, and that's where the point system started.
I got you.
Brandon, what about like, so instead of draws, have you considered just like a judge's decision, or you feel like that just adds a little?
No chance of a judge's decision. Like there's no point. There's no way to score points in this league except to tap somebody, right? And there's no penalty for a loss either, by the way. So like, you go out there and get after it, and if you get a draw, it's 0, and if you get tapped, it's 0. Like both of those things are okay. Because you're going to be competing 20 times. Get out there and take some risk, dude.
Mm-hmm.
And so go ahead.
No, I was going to say it's kind of cool because, like you said, you get to compete 20 times. So, a lot of times
something totally different over the course of 20 games. You know what I mean?
Oh my gosh. I mean, 20, imagine 20, because I think every, how many matches are they getting per competition? Like 2 to 3 or something?
Yeah. I tried to do 3, but sometimes you're only going to get 2. Sometimes by a week,
So imagine like being, this is one of the things, and I was thinking about doing something like this too, maybe not a league necessarily, but doing some sort of regular competition for the guys. Because like you said, regular competition, because that's one of the things that, for instance, when I wrestled in high school, that was one of the things that really, like, you don't have to be a big competitor to understand the value in competing, as far as it makes your game better just because of the fact that you're getting ready to put it on the line. And so that's just it's a way to have a goal. And it really pushes you forward. And I know that a lot of guys over the years who I've seen where there's like pre-competition person and then there's after competition person, and they're like 2 different people. And I am like, imagine, so at least like how many weeks is it? Like 7 to 10, something like that? 12. Okay. So 12 weeks. So 12 weeks of competing, where basically you're competing every week. You're going through the nerves. You're getting through all this stuff. By the end of those 12 weeks, I mean, if some of those guys were used to having nerves, like, they're going to still have nerves, of course, but it's going to be in like kind of more of a veteran competitor status. And I mean, again, with all those matches, a lot of times you go to compete and you're afraid of losing because you're like, man, if I lose this one match, like I go home and that's not, that's it. Whereas like if you lose on one week, you might come back next week and kill it. So that's kind of it's almost like, I was watching, I've been watching that Last Dance with Michael Jordan. You see that yet?
Yeah, dude.
It's so good.
Awesome.
Huge Bulls fan.
Okay.
Bulls fan.
So it's so good. But like when you look at like those badass teams in basketball, they play so many games that they lost some every year. You always lost games. There was never like, I don't know of any team, I'm sure there maybe was one, but I don't know of any teteams that had like perfect seasons.
Never
because you're playing like hundreds and you're playing like tons of times. So it's like
games in a regular season.
What's that?
82 in the NBA in the regular season. Plus the
82. Cool. So 82 plus plays. So I mean, again, that's a lot of games. So, you're going to take some losses, and that's just kind of par for the course. And so I think that being able to compete on a more consistent basis like that, where you're getting a lot more matches, it only makes sense that you're going to have some losses, and it takes away maybe some of the sting and worry about it. And let's just kind of go wide open and go for something.
I think you get like the true representation of the person's skill set, because maybe there's some nerves there initially, but then you're going to get, that person, maybe they'll calm down, or they'll even adjust their strategy. They may have been, their strategy may have been super, conservative, but now they got to go for it. But you'll get, if there's any flukes, any outliers, you'll probably get, you'll probably get that true self, that true competitor, kind of their skill set.
Yeah. And over the course of 20 games, the truth is going to shake out. You know what I mean? It's because like you're right. You're going to have bad weekends. You're going to have good weekends, most likely. Mm-hmm. And because it's open rank, you're going to get a chance to show your offense too if you're a higher rank. Even if normally you might be getting stalled out by some of the better guys, you're going to get to kind of show out on some of the white and blue belts. Like people are getting dunked on sometimes, which is cool.
But sometimes you'll have some of those younger guys, because I know for me, every now and then I would go to competitions and compete back when I was like a white and blue and, even purple belt. And they would throw us into these like, sort of ad hoc divisions where you would have different classes of people. You'd have like guys that have been training for, a couple months to guys that have been training for like 6-7 years. And every now and then I remember like beating guys that had like multiple times more experience than me, or multiple ranks higher than me, and getting that win. And that's always kind of fun.
I love it because it gives us a storyline too. Because now if a blue belt taps a purple belt and then a brown belt in the same night. Like, oh man, we got a gamer. Like, we got a guy to watch. We got an underdog to pull for. You know what I mean? It's not just who's going to win the tournament. Well, everybody picks their favorite and, okay, I was right or I was wrong. But we got a chance to develop like, oh, that guy's my favorite because I saw him 10 times already. When's Dallas coming up? He's that blue belt that does the whatever, you know? And then you got the white belt who doesn't even train. It's like tapping people and stuff. How cool is that?
What have you seen, like how people adjusted? We've been a couple weeks in. How have people adjusted their strategy or their game plan like so far? What are they doing? Like, what have they changed? Are people doing, like, have you noticed maybe your guys are like prepping differently?
A couple of times I've noticed their guys are thinking about the chokes more than they're thinking about the breaks now. So they're looking for kills more often than just a joint lock, which is, I think that's really good. Like, that's the way that I set it up that way for a reason. Like, so chokes are worth 7. We call those kills. So a kill is worth 7. And a break, which is really anything that's not a choke that causes the submission, is worth 3 points. Just think about some of the times when you've had guys dead in the water with a stretched out joint lock, and they just were like, you know what, I'm not going to tap. And then you ended up losing it. Like, that's happened before, right?
Yeah.
Dude, that's happened to me in competition when I was going as hard as I could. That's happened to me in the gym when I thought I had it. You know what I mean? I see it happen in MMA fights all the time. Some dude who wrestled his whole life, or he's just like, you know what? I do not care about my safety. I just got to say, as long as I save my life and win, then we're good.
Yeah.
So like Tim Sylvia versus Frank Merritt, UFC 48. Like, Mir broke his forearm in the middle, dude.
Yeah, he's like, it's okay.
There. And then Sylvia was like, why did you stop the fight?
Well, then even Vinny recently, like where he was, he did that at the ADCC with his arm, and then recently friggin' Craig Jones had him in that heel hook and like had his foot backwards, and he was still wanting to go. And I mean, again, he didn't win the match in that case.
He forced Craig to actually break his leg. Like, no, you're gonna have to break my leg to stop me.
Yeah,
man, like the average guy can't finish that. Like,
well, the average guy, most of us, like, we have too much empathy to even want to, because we get to that point, because like we all know what it's like to be off on the shelf with an injury. So typically you get to that point and like you're because I've had to like go further than what I've wanted to, and like literally like had it to the point where it's like it's locked out and we're in a competition. I'm like, come on, man, don't make me do this, because I don't want to do this to you, but I will, but I don't want to. And so I remember talking to one of my students about that like that, and I was like, man, to me, like when you do that, it's almost like playing chess and you just checkmated someone, and then instead of accepting that, they just keep moving pieces. They're like, yeah, exactly. I'm just gonna keep playing, because it's like the idea is that we're, I mean, again, and I get it. Like, you can fight out of it, you can let your arm break and keep going, but again, the idea to me is like, you're getting to that point where it could break and you're supposed to like just be like, all right, we're done, and that be that. But again, like you said, there are cases where dudes just let the stuff pop. The Meow brothers, they're terrible about that. They'll like, dude, I watched him, like, the dude put him in a toe hold and turned his foot right into his butthole, and then right afterwards he kept trying to roll and he ended up winning the match. And a friend of mine that was training with him at the time said that like the next week he's in the gym just kind of moving around and he had his foot all taped up, and he's like, dude, don't touch my foot. Like, so yeah.
There's a certain finality to it, like there's certainly a certain finality that you get when you're, because you can't, like, you're going to go out. Doesn't matter how big, strong you are, how much pain you can take, you're going to go to sleep. You know what I mean? So I think there's a finality to it. It's almost like, I think Marcel Garcia maybe mentioned like he prefers chokes, things like that, like guillotines and all that stuff, Mersaltine, of course, because there's just like a certain, it works on everybody. It's not like this guy's more flexible.
There's no questions anymore when you're laying there in a pile of your own drool. Like, okay. Like, you ever been in a submission and you're like, and the guy kind of lets go?
Mm-hmm.
You're like, wait a minute, what's the deal? He's like, well, I was just scared I was going to break it. Dude, you should show me that you can break it. Like, not always, but like sometimes like a guy was just like, dude, you have to break it to earn their respect sometimes. Like, there's just no question though if you're taking a nap on the mat about what's really going on.
Yeah.
Like, I could have broke that. Well, show me next time. Like a lot of times we think we got a break and we don't. Like our braking mechanics aren't that good because people don't force us to take it all the way. And then you get out there into the heat of the moment and you find out, oh, I actually don't know how to break this guy's foot with a heel hook.
How do you train that, Brandon? How do you work that? How do you teach your guys to do that, to get those mechanics?
You have to spend time with partners you trust at the end of the line right there. And so like, okay, look, I'm going to put my hands I'm going to get this heel hook here. If I get my hands together, I'm going to give it to you. So don't make me put my hands together. You know what I mean? Like little stuff like that. Or, okay, I'm going to train with Scaff now. I'll allow Scaff or Lindsay to stretch my arm all the way out because I know they'll let me play and explore what's possible there. But I'm not going to do that with people I don't trust.
Sure.
But I do think that that's a part of the game that doesn't get explored that much. Because most people are so eager to get a tap that you can't really like learn out in that totally extended position.
Yeah, it's funny. You were saying that, and there's a few of the guys that I train with where, like one of the guys, black belt's Tony, another black belt, I got Nate, and like say if I get them in an arm bar, I'll hold it and I'll have it to where I could just in one big instant, bam, I could just pop it. But I'll just kind of hang it out there and I'll just see like, do I have complete control of this arm? They'll try to fight out of it. They'll try to wiggle out of it. And I'll be like, can I just maintain control here for like a 3-4 second count and then begin to slowly creep up on the pressure so that this way they have a chance to see if they can escape. And if I can control them from doing that. And at the same time, I can continue to gradually add pressure towards the point where they have to tap because they feel it coming on. But you're right. Most of the time, especially early on, you don't have that kind of trust with someone because like you said, people are so eager to get a tap because they want to feel good that like if they were to let their arm fully go back, that person's going to just whack and they're going to pull something, rip it out. And instead of going at it, very slowly, I think there's kind of a point where, you go fast to the catch and quick to the position of like where you're finishing, but then in the actual finish, it should be very slow, especially in the gym anyway, where you get to the point where you're slowly getting to that point where they have adequate time to adjust. And then they also have adequate time to tap if need be.
And they also understand, okay, I'm pinned.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pinned to the floor and he's bending my foot behind me. Like I can't go. He's not even trying and he's got me pinned,
Do you watch your guys like train that way? And then maybe like if you intervened before, like if you see them doing, they're like, hey, stop. You ever like done that before? Like with your guys training?
Yeah, all the time, especially in like beginner's class. You'd be like, hey man, slow down. Nobody's making a value judgment about you based on whether or not you tap this guy. Settle down.
Do you got any is everything a go for you guys? Like when they're new guys coming in, is everything
no,
like
I don't let white belts do heel hooks or toe holds. So no twisting foot locks. We teach them, we drill them, we think about them, we prepare for them, we strategize for them, but I don't let them use them in rolling until blue belt.
Man, in my opinion, like I feel honestly like omoplatas, kimuras, Americanas, those are super, super dangerous. Like, I see people all the time with injury and you can destroy your shoulder. I mean, it's just as devastating of an injury. Like if you have a rotator cuff tear or you tear your shoulder up,
devastating injury in some ways if you blow your shoulder because it's a much more complex joint.
Dude, it's the same recovery. I mean, like not the same, but recovery is going to be 6 months to a year easy, if you want to get back. And, it's just like, I think that that should be just as emphasized. I think that's a lot more commonly attacked, especially like Chewy went, man, you're a wrestler at the beginning, you had that game, you had that Americana probably in your arsenal to begin with, and you can get there as a white belt. You can probably get there fairly easily.
Yeah. I think maybe the difference and Brandon, you tell me what you think about this. The difference I think with heel hooks and a lot of leg locks are like this is that with a kimura, a lot of times your upper body is locked in position and your head is locked in position. So your head and your upper body is sort of tight. And there's something about that makes you feel trapped, right? Your legs could be flailing around, but there's something about this upper region. I mean, because essentially when you think about who you are, this is where you think you are. You think you're this like little like guy up here in your head that's moving this flesh robot around, right? And so when that thing's trapped, you feel like trapped. Like, because think about it this way. I mean, like, we could pin your legs down and as long as your hands are free, you're okay. But we could pin your upper body down and you would be like way more threatening to you. Now, when you do a key lock or a kimura, a lot of times there's a lot of upper body control involved with it. The problem with a lot of leg locks, I think, at least early on, until people have been educated properly, is that, let's say if I put someone to a heel hook, their legs are trapped and they may even feel pain, but they have the ability to just while out and twist their body in the wrong directions and stuff like this. I've seen this with straight ankle locks where a guy gets caught in a straight ankle lock and he's like, ow, my ankle hurts. And he's just like, wah, and like tries to fling around like a Tasmanian devil and rips his knee apart. Whereas, you know, as long as the person who's applying that kimura has good control, which should be shown to them and basically like, listen, don't take it too far, you have enough upper body control where that person doesn't have the ability to sort of injure themselves as much as possible. I don't know. What do you think about that, Brandon?
Well, I think I agree with you. I think that people don't generally, even sometimes really good people, really good jiu-jitsu players and coaches, they don't understand how to control the lower body and pin the body. And so guys, when they go to start teaching and they take their hands off the control, they reach back for a heel hook, the control is lost, and so they're just, the guys ripping out and spinning and freaking out. But yeah, I think heel hooks are a little more, I do think they're a little more dangerous. A toe hold, I think, is gnarly too. Just the ligaments are so small there in the ankle and stuff, man. And people, exactly what you're saying, Chewy, people have a tendency to try to rip out because they feel more free than they are. And a lot of times the practitioner, even if he's good, doesn't have the kind of control that he would have if he had your shoulder instead.
Sure.
I do think like a lot of people that have been ankle locked, their ankles have popped, or if anybody's twisted their ankle before, like that, a lot of times those ligaments are torn and they don't repair them. In many cases, they're just torn. That's it. So you're using your muscles. So really, you can tear that shit and you can still be pretty much okay. Like most basketball players probably have a lot of tears in those areas. My concerns with the inverted stuff at the knee. The knee is where, like, I mean, pretty much everything's locked out and there's nowhere for somebody to move, right? Or if they twist the wrong way, there's basically shearing and destroying their ACL and all their other stuff.
It's cool.
It can't be. I mean, it also, man, I think we have more awareness. Like we use like our hands and arms in these ways. I think we have more awareness maybe of our shoulders possibly, and not as much awareness of our.
In a much more like dynamic way than you do your legs. Your legs mostly you just use for power movements. If you're not a really well-versed jiu-jitsu player, you're not pivoting, you're not pummeling with your feet, all that kind of stuff. But you do that with your arms just naturally. If somebody tries to grab you, you'll start pummeling in and turning, you know.
Yeah.
I think people are just more comfortable using their arms and their upper body.
Yeah. You know, it's so strange. Like, you know, I see this sometimes where you see the guys that, like, even me, like I was super crazy, would fight 110%, hated losing, but man, I always tapped quick. Like I was never one of these dudes that would like try to fight out of it for a long time. I'm like, dude, when I was caught, I was caught. Cause you know, I was like, it's like, man, I don't want to get like popped. I don't want to get stuff popped because I want to train tomorrow. So like, and you know, from my thing was even is like, I can't, like, you're about to submit me. I can't kick your ass, or I can't attempt to kick your ass if if I break my arm and I can't roll tomorrow. So yeah, I was always quick to tapping, even weird spots where I just didn't know where I would feel a pull in my shoulder or something. I would just tap out of just at a sheer, like, I don't know what this is, but it don't feel good.
I'm still that way. I always tell guys, like, I'm the easiest dude in the gym to tap. It's easy to tap me. It's just a couple of little places. You just twist my foot the wrong way and you're the king, man. You can have the whole gym if that's what it means to you.
How did you develop that? Like that mentality? How did you, you know, how did you feel like kind of, that's an ego thing. I think you're being a black belt, you know, well respected. You've got a lot of great guys underneath you, man. How does that, just being okay with giving up submission, or not giving it up, but getting subbed?
I just know what I am. I know who I am because I've been on the mats. So, I mean, all I do is train. I really don't know how to do anything else. So whether you think I'm good or not really is of no consequence to me. I really couldn't care any less if you think I'm good. I already know I'm good. I don't have to prove it to you. So if I'm uncomfortable, then I'll just tap.
You know, and that's another thing, like you're talking
Go
about.
home and tell all your friends you tapped Brandon. I don't care.
Going back to your jiu-jitsu league, that's something that that's one thing that separates a veteran competitor versus a like new competitor, is like a veteran competitor, someone that really gets it. They understand and they're detached from like the outcome, right? So if they lose, it's just, he lose, no big deal, right? Like that's just the way it is sometimes. Whereas like some people that lose, they get hung on to it, and they get so hung up on that one loss, and they feel like they suck at everything and all this kind of stuff. I think that some of these guys that are going through this competition that you have, this program, if they do this thing for those weeks, those 12 weeks, if they didn't have that mindset going into it, they're going to have it when it's over, because it's going to be like, dude, I lost some, I won some. And that's just the way competitions are, and that's the way that I think most training should be.
Yeah, well, that's the idea. I mean, think about like wrestling season. What do? You practice early, like for the preseason, you practice. And then when the season starts, you practice during the week. You got a practice routine, and then you compete on the weekend. And then you got a practice routine, and you compete on the weekend. And so you got this end point where you're going to get to test your assumptions. It's not like this, like with the way we do jiu-jitsu, like, well, I'm going to go get trained. Why are you training? Oh, to get better, just to get better. Or in case some mystery guy ever attacks me in the street, that's what I'm training for. Like, there's no end point to test your assumptions, to test the data that you're gathering. But every other sport, practice during the week, game on Tuesdays and Thursdays or whatever. So you get to figure out if you're learning on the fly. Which I wanted to have something where we could do that for our guys.
Well, I think you do that in a way, like you said, if a lot of the guys are local, they're basically getting so many reps. And some of these guys that do IBJJF, for example, that they have the ability to travel from city to city and get those reps in that way. And very few people can do that, get that experience. I think you're getting a lot of jiu-jitsu, like you're in a quick way, and you're getting a big bang for your buck, I feel like, in that aspect with this format.
Yeah, man. And hopefully like this works. Still got to figure out if I can do this or not. Like, so far so good, but I don't know. Who knows? It could fall apart in 2 weeks. I don't know.
Well, let me ask you this, man. So let's talk a little bit more about the rule set. So you've got the regular season, which you've already talked about. Now, how many competitors do you have? Let's start there.
32.
How many?
32.
32. So then how many make it to, like, they get about 20 matches, you got your point system based on, the kills and the breaks and the draws. So then how does your postseason start? How does that occur?
So the postseason is going to be one weekend, just like ADCC. 2 rounds on Saturday, 2 rounds on Sunday. Top 16 qualify. Well, it's actually not the top 16. It's the top 8 from this side and the top 8 from this side. So I wanted to do it that way so that we could be like, who's in, who's out, like talking about it during the week, like who's on the bubble, just like you're trying to make the NCAA tournament, right? So the top 8 over here and the top 8 over here. And then the playoff itself is no time limit, sub only. So once again, there's no way to win without submission.
That's cool. You have to go in there. You got to go do something.
Got to be, and there's no way to hide behind the rules like this. Because you do great in the season because you only got 6-minute matches and you can blow up and explode. But maybe that doesn't work over the course of a sub-only match that runs 40 minutes.
Yeah. It's a different tempo.
Yeah, but you need to be good at both if you want to win both. So there's really no way to hide behind the rule set. There's no way to stall. You stall 0 points.
It's interesting to see because like when you see rules, like no matter what, like it's almost like if I come up with like a game for the kids class or something, kids like instantly start like figuring out ways and around the rules, and they start messing with stuff, and they're like, well, you didn't say. With competitors, a lot of times it's interesting to see because there's lots of different rule sets in jiu-jitsu because we don't have a central governing body, which I'm a fan of. I don't want an IJ. I don't want like how judo has an IJF. I don't want that because I think it's restrictive. But it's interesting to see the different rule sets, and it's interesting to see how people manipulate them. Like, because again, like with a submission only, because I've done a couple of those, like no time limits. And when you get into that situation, you got to kind of decide when you're getting ready to go. You're like, do I play it easy at first and try to bring this guy into deep water? Do I try to go for the kill early and possibly run out later? I mean, there's a lot to it. And man, I've seen some brutal matches that were like an hour and a half long. And at some point, what's that?
We'll probably end up having a couple of those here for the league.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know what's going to happen with that, but it's really interesting.
That's like a
love
mental
the
thing for sure.
Yeah, it can be. And two, man, it's so hot here. It's so miserably hot.
That's what Matt said.
And we got that warehouse. It's all insulated. We just got that one bay door where the air comes in. So, dude, the humidity, it's like breathing water.
Ugh.
Just during the training. So, like, we just got done. We just did 10 rounds, sucking water through your nose and drowning in it. It's gnarly, man. It's the gnarliest room.
I was gonna ask you, man, do you have because I'm curious, like I'd be down. Have you talked to anybody about possibly having like multiple areas doing the thing? Like, so basically you have like a south, a north or east or whatever, like
regions,
basically
baby.
like regions, like where basically you say like, here, here's the gym that's going to host this region, here's this region, and then you bring those suckers together almost like conferences or whatever.
No, that's exactly the idea. So like basically once I got to make sure that I can run the game properly, right?
Mm-hmm.
But once I have a grasp of that, and then, okay, we want to add this thing that makes it look professional, and we want to add these sponsors that help pay the athlete, whatever. But yeah, eventually I'm the SEC. And then we add Pac-10. And then we add, or what, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And yeah, we take your top two guys and we take your top two guys, et cetera.
So Brandon, what's worked, man? You said like you're trying to figure out if this thing works. Tell me some stuff that's worked, some stuff that hasn't worked, and maybe even like what you'd like to change or some modifications.
24 players moving forward instead of 32. 32 is tough to wrangle. I mean, I'm doing it so far, but I don't know if I'm going to be. I don't know how successful I'll be at wrangling all 32 all season. You know what I mean? Because it's just so many. That's 8 more opportunities for something to go wrong during the course of the week. Like, and that affects everybody. So next one, I think I'm just going to do 24 moving forward. That rules 8 people out of the playoff that way, you know. So you still got to fight to stay in the playoff. But that'll probably be 12 on each side. 32 is a little much. Really, that's and that hasn't gone wrong yet. I'm just from a management perspective, I'm thinking that that's probably the right way to do it. If I get some extra help or something. So.
Yeah, and now you've got like you've got all belt levels, right? All experience levels.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think? I mean, advantages, disadvantages of doing it that way? I mean, is it just to fill the slots initially?
Well, no, that's the way I want it. I want some people in there that can get dunked on. Everybody can't be the Bulls, dude. You know what I'm saying? We need some people to finish at the bottom of the league. And by the way, those are the people everybody in the chat's pulling for.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the people everybody wants to win. And man, we had a blue belt. I think Dallas tapped Matt, right?
Okay,
Dallas
sure.
back and tapped it. That was a blue belt. Got a brown, and like everybody was pumped. It's like, yo, go get him, dog. That's super cool. And then Matt Anderson, the white belt guy, like he doesn't even have a school that he trains at, but he's tapped like 5 people so far.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean? So people love that, or they hate him. Like, oh, he doesn't even train. He's garbage, whatever, you know? So it gives a story. It's a way to have a storyline. So I think I'm going to continue to pick the players almost like the Ultimate Fighter. I'm not looking for the best fighter necessarily. You know what I mean? I'm just like, we need a way to have cool, reliable people who are into the idea and love it. Like, there's just a 0% chance that I'm going to let somebody who causes me drama or bothers me stay. 0% chance it's going to happen.
How are people training for this thing? Like right now, so it's middle of the season or 2-3 weeks in. Like, how are you coaching your guys in a different way? Are you telling them to, back off? How do they keep healthy? Because this is a weird kind of, this is like you have to compete.
So here's what my guys are doing is we're banging it out on Monday and Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, we're just a normal, I call it just a regular old training sesh. And on Thursday, it's very light, just moving through your movements, moving through your confidence and stuff. So like raising your confidence in your own movements rather than trying to find out if you're tough on Thursday. Like we'll figure that out some other time. Like Thursday's more about upgrading the software without damaging the hardware.
Mm-hmm. And that Fridays is when you guys are going, right?
Yep, they play Friday.
Yeah, it's interesting, man. It's an interesting concept. Nobody's done anything like it.
I haven't seen it yet. And it may be, dude, it could be the worst idea ever. I don't know yet, but I'm having a good time. I had like a real self-conscious moment with it last week where I was like, oh man, am I being corny? Like, is it, but I feel pretty good with it overall.
Corny in what way?
I don't know, dude. It's like you put out a thing for the world to consume and you have to sit and spend time. Like you got to kill your babies. You know what I'm saying? They're not, that's the whole like war of art thing.
Yeah. Well, I think it's good at least that you question it, because if you have some people don't have the self-questioning nature, and those people I tend to not like to be around very much. You know what I mean? But like most people that have a somewhat self-questioning nature, I feel like first off they'll bring something good to bear because they're constantly like ridiculing it in their own head, being like, I hate this.
It matters to me that it's good.
Right. Exactly. But no, I mean, I think so far, man, I think it's a cool idea. I think that, especially now it's the, the kind of weird times that we're in have kind of positioned it in a situation where it has a chance to kind of grow because no one else is doing competitions really. And so it gives people a chance to compete on a regular basis for the next 12 weeks or longer. And, that's a cool thing for a lot of people. And again, even in that, I remember like when the chat was going on, because I jumped in on the first one. I was there the first night that it started going on. Yeah. And I was watching the matches, and I mean, the amount of activity going on in that live chat was pretty good. People were watching, and I mean, dude, people were like cheering for people. They're making, like just saying stuff, whatever. It was very active, and there's a lot of engagement. But I thought that was cool, and obviously it shows that people are enjoying it.
Yeah, I think so. And to me, that's a really, really important part of it. Is like we were talking about, I wanted to be a fan during the whole season, or during the whole week, not just on game day, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that chat is an important part of that, and the fantasy league is an important part of that. So that's
explain that a little bit.
Okay, I made a fantasy league for this thing. So
You're a nerd. You're a nerd, dude. You're a nerd. I love it.
So much fun. It makes it so much more fun. If I could find a way to legally gamble on it, and like I'm going to figure out how to get it on FanDuel or DraftKings.
That's your $1 million idea right there.
Well, I'm working. I just don't know. I live in Alabama. You know what I'm saying? but yeah, I got it on the fantasy. I'll send you guys a link to it, and you can join up. But you just pick. So like you get $80, and then based on how the guy did last week, his price goes up or down, and you got to get 5 guys.
That's it. I mean, like, how do you? So you got to have so much time, like, to sit there and digest, get to know these guys, and like, what belt rank are they? Like, what are they doing? How have they won? Like, what do you see them doing? It's kind of interesting. It is. It makes you kind of be a fan. I think for me, I'd like to see like maybe some off the mat stuff. Like, how are they doing? Like maybe how are they prepping for that week? Like maybe spotlight an athlete once a week or something.
We're already on it. So
look at you, man.
Scaff is doing on his podcast, which is called Grappling Discourse. Scaff is doing an athlete interview each week. So he's had like 4 or 5 of the guys on to do like a nice sit down interview already. And then we're planning on starting to, me and Keelan during the week, we're going to start doing some travel to other gyms and trying to get some like B-roll and exactly what you're talking about, like each week. And then we also want to have like a highlight reel each week of the submissions, but Keelan just had his new baby yesterday. Well, his wife had it. So he's our camera guy. Mm-hmm. So he's a little predisposed right now. Mm-hmm. I'm not pushing on him too hard this week. Like, okay, take your time, but better be on the game next week, son.
That the baby's done, man. It's for 1 week for the baby. Go on.
Give that baby a week and then get back to work.
So, like, logistic wise, making it a production, making it something that people are excited about. Like, what have been some things you think have gone well, or some hurdles, with getting it on YouTube and live streaming and getting the proper camera angles and all that stuff?
So most of the equipment we already had, just from all the little projects I've been working on and stuff. And we had the right experience for it because we've already been running that, the YouTube channel, and we've already been trying to do little productions and stuff on it. So I didn't have to spend too much money on the setup. I already had the employee to work on it. What I've had to do, if I'm going to make it work, is I got to shift my business attention over to it. So I've had to shift my attention from grow Brandon's brand, grow the Brandon MC.Ninja thing, over to grow the PGF and work on that. So the time that I would have been spending kind of working on my funnels and working on my products and stuff like that, I've been having to give attention over here to that. So that's been the biggest challenge. And I'm not letting this go over here at all. But I do have my attention looking this way for the time being. So as I get more help, I'll be able to balance both of those, but I won't be able to do both of them by myself for sure.
What do you think is the ultimate goal, man, for you? Ultimate goal, big picture,
Sell it to Fight Pass.
Got it.
Yeah. I mean, be on ESPN. That'd be cool.
That would be awesome.
Even if the show itself wasn't on ESPN, just bring me in to consult over, or not consult, but talk about grappling or whatever. That would be cool. Oh, Brandon, he's the PGF expert and he's here to talk to us about jiu-jitsu. That would be cool. Like the way Barry Melrose used to be hockey. Nobody cared about hockey, but Barry Melrose was the jiu-jitsu expert. That'd be cool. But yeah, for the league, I want to get it on Fight Pass. And I want to get people who know how to run a production and hand that off to them. Okay, here you go. I have this idea. I'll manage it. I'll wrangle it. But I need help there. I need help there. I need help there. And you guys are professionals at that. Let's see if we can make it happen together. But I just don't want to give up. I don't want to say control, because you can only control so much, right? So I don't want to say I don't want to give up control of it, but I don't want to give up the me being able to wrangle it until it's ready, until I know that, look, if everything goes wrong, me and Keelan can run this by ourselves, just with a couple of volunteers. So that's the main idea right now. Keelan's the camera guy. He's my partner on it. We're 50-50 on this thing. So I'm just the loud mouth of the South that gets to talk about it.
The front man.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, that's a thing, man. When you get into, you and I are both in a situation where you're, and you're in a situation where you have all these different irons in the fire. Yeah. And a lot of times it's I call it plate spinning. It's you got to go over here. You've got to dedicate attention to one thing. And then once you get the plate spinning, it just takes a little bit to keep going. And then you can go over to another one and then you can get that it's going. But it's that process of getting the thing going to where it's systematized and it's running smoothly. That's a difficult part, because again, there's no, a lot of times in the stuff that we do, there's no handbook for this stuff. It's you're all kind of I got to make this stuff up as I go. And so it's a lot of work in the beginning.
Well, that's when you and I first, you talk about no handbook. When you and I first were hanging out, I was like, hey, how do you do email?
Oh, yeah.
And I'm just just teach me what you do and what you figured out and learned from here and here and here. I'll share the same thing when people ask me questions like that. There's no handbook. But I tell you, man, you talk about getting the plate spinning. That's a great analogy. It's the school, the plates are spinning. You know what I mean? Lindsay is so good. So Lindsay's my wife. She's a black belt. I know you guys know that. Anybody listen, she's a black belt, and she's really in charge of the school. Right? I teach the classes, but they don't let me mess with none of the money or any sales calls or any of that. They don't want me doing none of that. Brandon, you prepare as well as you can. You study as well as you can. And then we want you to go out there and teach this class to the best of your ability. And be happy. Okay, I can do those things. All right. But between Lindsay and Scaff, I really don't have any stress as it relates to the school.
Yep. And
so I get to just come in, and that gives me so much freedom to do exactly what I want to do.
Yeah.
Just study and focus on jiu-jitsu. And then I want to work on this project. And I want to study jiu-jitsu, and then I want to work on this project. Yeah. So I like having too many irons in the fire.
Yeah.
But I just can't be I have to have great people in place to give me that sort of almost like an emotional freedom.
Yeah. Well, Have you ever read the book, The E-Myth Revisited or whatever,
Oh yeah,
E-Myth?
I got a copy of it sitting right there actually.
Yeah, so I remember reading that because, in the book he makes those three distinctions between being like sort of the entrepreneur, the manager, and then the worker, essentially, I think, or his employee or whatever. And every one of us has like that worker part of us, like where it's the thing that we do that like you could offload it to someone else, but it's like the thing that you do that's really well that you don't want to let go.
Yeah, that's
And
the art.
exactly. So for both of us, it's like we do the worker part of us is teaching the jiu-jitsu class, which is something we love doing and we are always going to do because it's what we want to do. But then I think in both cases, you and I are very similar in this way. Then there's the entrepreneurial side where it's like you're this ideas are popping, and then it's like you want to get things going. But the problem is, and I don't know about you, I suck, absolutely suck at anything related to managerial stuff. Like I don't like managing a bunch of people. I don't like managing all these random things. Like my business partner Joe, for instance, he does like what Scaff and Lindsay do for you as far as managing like all the where the money's going and all this stuff, because I'm like, I need my mind free to do this and this and go do these things. And even like with some of the back end stuff related to customer fulfillment and everything else with it related to the products I sell, like Jess does that. And Jess is much better as far as like managerial, keeping things together than I am. Like I'm all over the place. And so I relate to that a little bit. I just wanted to share that because we're very two peas in a pod.
We're super similar in that regard.
Yeah.
For me, though, I like to make sure that I can do it before I hand it off. Instead of, so like, even if it's something, unless it's something that I have no skill in, like video production or something, I'm just going to hire that out.
Sure.
Like, I have no idea what to do with that. So, but like the school, the sales process, we're going to hire a sales guy. Well, I want to make sure that I know the sales process and I can do the job. That way, when I hand it off, I'll know if it's being done well.
Yeah. Right.
And I don't mind managing people. I don't like managing task and stuff like that. Like the daily, just do this over and over. I don't want to. I don't like exactly. I don't want to micromanage people. Yeah. I don't want that. And so I expect that if I trust you enough to give you an assignment, that you're gonna do it the way that you're gonna do it. That's why I asked you to do it. You know.
By the way, I wanted to give a shout out. Sorry, Eugene, before you go ahead and say whatever you want to say in a second, Eugene, but I wanted to say shout out because along with that, like with Eugene's the one that keeps his podcast like all nice and together and keeps it running. Because like me, I'm like all over the place. So I'm doing a million different things. Eugene makes it sure it's nice and like makes it sure it's all together. So you guys have good sound quality and everything else. So again, I just wanted to make sure I was giving shout outs to everybody. I was like, I got to give a shout out to Eugene.
It's not necessary. I love doing it, but man, you guys are like the creative vision. You guys are the creators, right? You got to have your mind free to create, like, because that's where your best work comes from. You have to have that time, that time to experiment, right? Like PGF, that's not going to happen like right away. Like that takes time to formulate, experiment, like, tinker. So you guys are the brand. You guys are like, well, people come to the gym, they're like, oh, they see Chewy, they're like, holy shit, there's Chewy. Like, I'm going to train here. Like, honestly, and you're the same way, man. Brandon, you're the same way. Like, you've got this personality. People come in, and you probably have a successful gym because y'all run things well. You have a great gym. But, man, a lot of the people are there enjoy to learn from you. That's a big part of it.
Yeah, I think so. And, again, man, that's because I have so much stability in my life. I'm free. I'm free because I have such a great support system. Like, my wife is the best, like straight up the best. So I'm free to I'm untethered. You know what I mean? I just can, if I wanted to, I could just chase my tail all day, but I'm a pretty focused and determined kind of person too. We read this book called Rocket Fuel, me and Lindsay, when we first started working together. And it's about how every business, there has to be two roles basically. So there's the dreamer, or there's just the creative, like what you're talking about. But somebody has to execute on those ideas.
Yes.
Right. Because I'm an idiot. And when it's time to execute on those ideas, that's where I stumble. Like, it's really hard for me to like get started. That's the hard part for me. It just takes so much resource for me to get going. Once I'm going, I'm on for 14 hours if that's what you need. And I won't shift my focus if that's what it requires, but just starting, I'm like, oh, it's so hard. Lindsay's up, bam, started and it's done in an hour. Something that would take me 3 days to like, oh, I can't believe I got it, you know? So she's awesome like that. But that's that we call her the executioner. So like when I need something done, when I have an idea, Lindsay executes. She's the executioner.
How do you find these skills in people? And Chewy, this comes for you too. Like delegating is kind of a difficult thing. And by the way, I appreciate the shout out. Thank you. But I don't know. I appreciate that, man. It means a lot. But like, you know, it's a hard thing to delegate because you're like, sometimes it takes resources, financial resources, whatever, but you also have a certain product you want to present. So like, what do you guys have to go through to delegate, to find that somebody's fit to do that task or feel comfortable with that?
For me, I'll give you an example. When I hired Keelan is the camera guy. When I initially hired him to work for my business, I was micromanaging him a little bit. I was standing over him a little too much. And he looked at me one day, not in even a smart aleck way, just in a matter of fact, but, hey, you hired me to do this job, right? Yeah. Why? Well, because I believe you'll do a great job and I the kind of work ethic you have. Okay, give me a little room here. Oh, my bad, dog. And hands off. Just trust him and let him go and come back and if you're paying somebody to do that, then you can feel free to come back in and correct them. But you also have to have people that you trust to do the kind of work you're asking for. So yeah, it's a trust thing, really, I think.
Yeah. I mean, trust is important for me. And then for me, man, is like the disposition of the person. Like I want someone that's hungry, right? Like, cause I really, you know, there's this thing where like Joe and I have both done this. We've trained people to do things that they did not know they could even do beforehand because it's like they were hungry, right? They just, you know, for instance, like the videographer that I use now, if you watch the videos about, I remember I hired him in 2018, May. And I was like, he did videos, he did pictures. He did not do videography or anything like that. But I was like, look, man, I'll give you this opportunity and we'll just see how it goes. And he was like, you know, I don't really do videography, whatever. I'm like, you'll figure it out. Just figure it out. Like, it'll be fine. Like, I was like, I figured out how I can edit videos. I figured this shit out. Like, you can figure this out. And so what's that?
I'm just agreeing with you.
You know, but you know, cause it's like, to me, it's like, it's one of these things where if you're hungry enough, if you want it, like you'll figure it out. Like there's just like everything is figure outable. I mean, you have Google. You can literally, if you have the question, you can figure out the answer there. And so, you know, I remember he would, we basically, anybody that I work with, I always start off with, I have this thing that basically it's the first sort of rule. Before you ask me, ask Google. Because I'm like, because Google probably knows, and I'm going to go to Google if I have to figure it out myself. And the thing is if you go there, you can figure out all the answers if you have the questions to ask. And so I remember like his video editing has increased and gotten better, and we touch base on every week and whatever else, but he's progressively gotten better. His editing's gotten better and he's gotten much more sharp and everything else. But he was hungry. You know, he was wanting to do it. He was willing to take a chance. I trusted him. And, you know, those are the kind of people I like finding, are people that just like, a lot of times they're not looking for their handout. It's just like, they're just like willing to dig in and grind and do something. Those are the people. Cause it's like, I resonate with that. Cause there's so many people that a lot of times just, they want a job. I'm like, I want you to create your own opportunity. You create it and like, we'll pay you. Let's do it. You know, not like, give me something to do. Like, no, why don't you go make it happen for me a little bit? You know, I'll give you some direction, but afterwards you gotta go, because my mind's got to think about all this other stuff. So I just need you to make this happen.
And I don't have time to manage you.
That's right.
So I need you to just deliver a result.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times it comes to respect for who the product that like you or Chewy present. Like you respect, like you have a certain respect for what you guys do and you want to do a great job. So a lot of you are doing it for yourself, but you're also doing it for who you're working for. Like for me personally, you're not working for, but who you're working with. You know, like for me, I want the podcast to be great. You know, I want everybody to love it and have a great experience listening to it and stuff. And so you do as much for yourself as you do for the person that you're trying to help their brand and build them up too.
Being a boss is not really an easy thing. So
you're not the boss, bro. It's your wife.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah,
like,
I got you.
Trying to manage people
for sure
is not always an easy thing. So for me, it's really, really important that I keep people around that don't bring any drama. Like it's just no drama ever. And if there is, I got to find somebody else.
That's right.
Brandon, before the podcast started, I was asking you about the EBI overtime thing that just happened, the tournament. You wouldn't tell me. I was like, I didn't know where it was. I asked you where it was, and you wouldn't tell me. You don't have to tell me. That's fine. It's like a secret. But I wanted to kind of get your thoughts on that because, you know, it's a strange concept. You're kind of basically in these like positions that, you know, submission is very, very high. Like, what did you think of that tournament format and like, you know, being a commentator there for that thing? How was it?
So I love doing those kind of things, first of all. So I was happy to go do it. I wasn't sure about the idea, especially in the beginning. I was kind of like, oh no, coach. But, you know, Eddie is he's a creative too. Like he's going to try and do whatever Eddie's going to do that week, you know. For me, when I had to organize it differently in my mind to enjoy it. So as we're leading in, I realize it's not a measure of who's the best basketball player. It's a dunk contest.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
It's
an all-star weekend and it's a dunk contest. So we're not trying to find out who's going to win the world title right here. We're just getting a bunch of dudes together. Hey, by the way, we're paying them the same as if they did a regular EBI tournament. So everybody that came got paid. They got their expenses paid. They got a hotel. They had a cool experience. And somebody walked out of there with several $1,000s on a dunk contest. I think, and if you organize it that way in your mind, it's pretty fun. Like, do I want to see that every weekend? No, I don't. But I also don't want to see an IBJJF tournament every weekend either. You know what I mean? But, yeah, I enjoyed it overall. I always love going and doing those things. That's the best.
So for people who don't know the rule set, it's basically just the overtime rules. You either start in the spider web or back mount, basically, over on kind of backpack position. And then you just go from there. You either do first to submit the quickest or who escapes. If there's no submissions, the quickest escape basically wins, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's just the overtimes from EBI. And it went fast, man. The first round was over. 16 guys were out of there in – well, the whole show was 2 hours, and that was counting the special matches and every round.
Yeah. What did you learn from it? Like, did you see like, oh man, I didn't realize this position was so much more dominant, or did you get any kind of definitive ideas on jiu-jitsu or on finishing from those positions?
So we use those positions a lot. Just being in 10th Planet, we play those overtime positions a lot. So I don't know that I think generally the public learned a couple of things about the arm lock, but I don't know that the only real like extra detail, like, oh, that's a little different, is that there was probably 3 or 4 instances where guys had the back and they had the body triangle on the correct side, on the high side. And then once they locked the choke in, the guy struggled and they brought him over and put the triangle on the low side. And that's when they got the tap. So I noticed that probably 4 times, which is, I'd never really picked up on anybody doing it that way before. So I don't know. That is to be investigated.
Is there one position that was more dominant than the other, like had more finishes?
Probably the back, but just because it was chosen so many more times. All of the upsets came in the arm lock. Guys who thought they were just going to get out of an arm lock, and it didn't happen. And then when guys needed to get one quick, they were always going to the arm lock. So
okay.
Like, oh, God, man, this guy just beat me in 30 seconds. I got to tap him faster. They went to the arm lock every time.
Is that that work? That strategy was pretty effective?
I mean, when it did, it did.
All right.
You know, but it didn't work every time, no. But, I mean, it makes sense if you've got to tap me in 30 seconds and you're planning on starting on my back, I mean, I don't know, man. I don't think you're going to get it. You know, I think I can survive for 30 seconds even if I just hold on and pray. Yeah. So, but the arm lock, once the grip breaks, it's a race. Am I going to escape or is he going to break it? So it's only just fighting the grip too. So if you need to make something happen and you're willing to blow out the rest of your energy tank for these last 30 seconds, I think the arm lock's probably the right move.
Yeah. What's your favorite rule set? I'm just curious. Like, if you have to take them all, like the one that you have for your tournament, is that kind of your favorite thing? And Chewy, I want to know as well for you. I do really like the fight to win rule set. You know, they do allow slams, which I think is
Yeah.
You know, I think that's not a bad idea. You know, it
I
keeps
don't like anything
people
where it's
honest.
the judge's decision.
Okay.
Anything where the judges can be involved, I feel like we might as well be figure skating. Um, the ADCC rule set is probably my favorite. I just wish they didn't have that penalty for the guard pull.
Mm.
I feel like that makes jiu-jitsu guys pretend that they know how to wrestle. And I don't like that. I'd rather just see some jiu-jitsu dudes do some jiu-jitsu, you know what I mean? So that's the only thing. But I just love ADCC. I love ADCC. Every single thing about it except that one little tiny thing. I love that they have trials that you can win. That's so cool. They got people from other it's just like this big – it feels like you're winning an entrance into Mortal Kombat. There's only 6 around the globe. I love ADCC. It's definitely my favorite.
It's the Jiu-Jitsu Kumite.
Yeah, and dude, it matters the most. Like,
Sure.
there's just nothing you can say. Like, well, I'm from wrestling. Enter. I'm just a blue belt. Enter. Like, well, I'm a brown belt, but I tapped 3 black belts, so I guess I'm the man. Like, there's no hiding. I love that rule.
It's interesting, yeah. Cheer, what about you, man?
Yeah, I mean, I would say like I like the ADCC environment for sure. The rule set, I like and dislike the negative points for guard pulling because, like, you know, for instance, one of the things that like I hate is watching dudes like double guard pull in like the IBJJF, and you're just like, this is so boring. So I'm at least if they pull guard, they're going to have a lot of incentive to go for something. I also like the fact that they do kind of like that first round is just their first half of the match is just kind of like there's no points. So like if you want to go submit the dude, go submit him, and there are guys that will do it that way, you know. You know, but I tend to me, I tend to favor any sort of rule format where it's basically just dudes rolling. Like, it's like, look, we're not going to penalize you for any of this stuff. Basically, whoever gets submitted, that's the thing. That's what you're shooting for. You know, I like to fight to win rules. I could definitely understand the idea about not liking judges' decisions. But like, for instance, for me, like, your thing's different because it's multiple weeks. And so there's more time to accumulate points. And so having a draw is not that big of a deal. But like one of the worst, I think for me, it was like one of the biggest letdowns ever was like most of the Men and More shows, because they would have these hype, there would be all this like build up to it. And I mean, like, you know, no offense, but like when you have when your whole show is draws, it's like, like there's this like anticlimactic thing, you know, like you're just like, I almost got there, but not quite, you know. And for me, like I hated that. I remember literally, I forgot which EBI or which Metamoris it was. I had Metamoris going, and then I turned on and they had a Copa Podial was going on the same night. And I remember watching like Metamoris and like literally like I'm trying not to fall asleep because it's so boring. And then I flipped on the Copa Podial watching that, and there was a match. It was a sub-only match with Gilbert Burns and Leandro Lowe, and the match ended with Leandro Lowe doing a standing cross-collar choke, like face to face with Gilbert Burns as their sweat's dripping off. I was like, this was awesome to watch. I'm like, I would rather watch this because to me, there's, you know, competitors are what they are. Some of them, it doesn't matter what event you put them in, they're going to be exciting. Like you like watch a guy like Gary Tonin. It doesn't matter what organization you put Gary Tonin in, he's going to go for the kill. And there's plenty of those guys like that. You know, you get like a Gio Martinez. It doesn't matter what organization he competes in. He's always exciting. He's going after the win, right? But then there's some guys where it doesn't matter how you structure the points. They'll find a way to game it where, like, I mean, you watch some of these guys go to the EBIs and they'll literally do nothing for 10 minutes. And then in the overtime rounds, that's when they come alive. You know, and so again, it's like, it's just one of those things where competitors are what they are. But I think there has to be some sort of finality to it that is going to cost them if they do not go for the win. In Brandon's case, right, like you have multiple weeks, so if you don't go for the finish, you're going to lose this thing and you have no chance of winning. Whereas like, say, like going back,
the guy. Like,
what's that?
Even if you're super good at jiu-jitsu, you take him down and you dominate him on the top and you pass his guard, neither one of you are getting points if there's no sub.
Exactly. So that you have to go, because if you don't get the submission, if you don't go for the win and the kill, then you're not going to, there's no chance to win. You're going to miss out on the money. So there, you know, to me, that's what the incentive comes from. Whereas like going back to the Metamoris, you would get a draw and they would just go, well, I'll come back next time and do great, whatever. And it's just like, no, man, it's like, you need to have some sort of like something on the line. You either have to win or lose. You have to have something on the line. So I think anything that allows people to roll, but still has some sort of penalty for not going for that finish, I think is always good.
Yeah, I think I agree with that.
I kind of compare it to soccer a little bit. Like when I grew up playing soccer, people were kind of like, soccer's boring. Like, because they didn't quite understand the game, but it was 0-0, 1-0, or what. There's a lot of draws, and people thought it was really boring. And it's gained popularity, but like when there's a finality to it, like you said, that makes it more exciting. There's more at stake. And so when you get a kill, for example, like in your tournament, Brandon, you get a kill, man, that's final, that's definitive, that's dead to rights. You're nothing, that's it. Like, I mean, it brings a kind of a sobering reality to it, so to speak. Like this is a real fight. Like this is it, somebody is out, they could be done. So I just think it adds more excitement.
And I wanted to call it kills instead of chokes. Like,
yeah,
we're calling these are kills and these are breaks. Like, don't say joint lock, don't say choke, don't say strangle. That's a kill.
Strangle. Strangle. What's that? What'd you say, Brandon?
Nothing.
What, you don't like strangle?
You know what's funny is I remember looking up the definition when I was a white belt, and I remember asking my coach, because I'm like, well, technically, aren't we doing a strangle? And we were like looking up the definition. He's like, yeah. He's like, but we call it chokes. I'm like, fair enough. Call them chokes. It's like, okay, it's just it's our verb
explanation that I needed. That's good.
It's like, it's the verbiage. It's what we use.
Same thing.
Well, so it's not. So I mean, one's a wind, one's like a wind choke, or like wind, and one's like blood.
Okay.
So technically, what we do is
think about like an Ezekiel where he's pressing in on your windpipe.
Yeah.
Right there,
yeah.
Versus a punch choke where he's looks the same, but he's on your artery instead.
It's all strangles, baby.
It's all kills.
It's all kills. That's what I meant to say.
If you can't breathe or you're unconscious, I'm the king. So,
Brandon, I want to ask you, man. So with this thing you got going on, what's the key? You got like one thing that you would tell the fighters, like, man, or the competitors, what's one thing they should focus on?
Get on top, stay on top, crush humans. Same thing I tell my kids' class. That's the motto in our kids' class. Get on top, stay on top, crush humans. And the most readily available human is the one underneath you. Crush that one.
Love it.
I mean, that's if it's 7 points for a kill and 3 for a break, then focus on putting people on their back, dominating their guard, and positionally putting them into a place where you can strangle them. Like, definitely, that's the that's the focus of that should be the focus of jiu-jitsu in the first place, in my opinion. If we're thinking about jiu-jitsu as a self-defense art and as a fighting art, like, there ain't gonna be no double butt scooting. Listen, I'm down. I think there's value in playing that way, especially in the game setting. But when it's time to kill somebody, what are you going to do? You're going to put them flat on their back. You're going to incapacitate them, and you're going to strangle them to death. Focus on that. So that's awesome. My message to the jiu-jitsu world, not just to the PGF. Gotcha.
Brandon, so if people want to watch the show, or they want to get it, be involved in some way, because you have a great time on YouTube, people are interacting, they interact with you guys, they interact with each other. Where can they go? What do they need to do to find out more?
Dude, just go to YouTube and look up Professional Grappling Federation, or PGF. And it's free on YouTube every Friday night at 6. If you want to play the fantasy league, I'll send you guys a link for that. If you want to check the standings and the schedule, it's pgfhome.com. But yeah, just jump in and watch. I don't need anything. You don't have to send me any money. You don't have to share it. Just get in there and watch it and see if you enjoy it. And if you're used to watching normal jiu-jitsu tournaments, just like a weekend tournament, I think you're really, really going to enjoy this, because it's going to offer an opportunity to kind of pull for people that you don't normally pull for, or you wouldn't normally know about. And it's a way to engage with it that is not really offered by most promotions.
I love the nicknames, by the way. Scarecrow of Doom. I would just laugh about that.
Matt's
What
the
else you got?
Scarecrow of
You got
Doom,
any
dude.
more?
Yeah. So Matt Harrison's the Scarecrow of Doom.
That randomly, by the way, for people listening, that randomly came up from someone that was watching the live feed.
That was
And
awesome.
Matt's this big, tall, lanky dude, and they were like, "The guy, dude's a Scarecrow of Doom," and that one stuck.
Dude, it's so perfect. Kevin Primo's the Liquid Terminator. He
Why?
sweats so much.
Okay.
He just sweats so much. A scary, dangerous human also. Well, he's the Liquid Terminator. Manderson, of course. Got Matt Anderson. He's just Manderson. Blake Randall, somebody's calling him Boy Wonder. That's Boy Wonder. Manscaped Mike. We got Manscaped Mike.
Okay.
Did he have some good manscaping going on?
He's the professionalist.
Oh, okay.
Straight razor.
Stunk like a G, man. Not like this. Not like this. This is Lawrence County professional right here.
Is that you doing your own, huh?
Yeah, for sure.
All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed the podcast there with Brandon. If you guys ever get a chance to train with Brandon, he's a fun dude to be around. He's also a phenomenal teacher. Like, he's a good coach. He's a good instructor. He's one of the few people this is going to sound bad. I have a tendency to get incredibly bored when people teach. Because I've been around it so long, right? So basically, if you don't show me something and package it in an entertaining way, I'll fall asleep on you. I'm just like, I'm bored. And so Brandon is one of the few coaches that I've met who, like, man, the way that he teaches, it's like, it's entertainment. It's very educational. It's very good instruction. He'll give you all kinds of great details, all that stuff. But man, it's fun. You know, like, there's none of this like, all right, guys, I'm here today to teach you a technique, and or it's not the other type of guy. So I have like a list of types of coaches that bore me. The other one is like the one that likes to flex the lexicon, right? Where like you get the coach and like they want to like go off and pull out a dictionary of words on you, which again, some people can speak like that, and it you can tell that's just their normal vernacular. But then you look at some people and you're like, they're using the wrong words in the wrong situations, and you're like, come on, man, like, you're just trying to like flex on people and you're not even doing it right. Brandon's he's a simple dude. He's cool as hell, and man, he's a good coach, and it's entertaining. So if you ever get a chance to learn from him, I encourage you to do it. I brought him up to my school several times for seminars, and every time he's gone up there, the students have been like, dude, that guy was so much fun to be around. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the podcast. And again, check out his Professional Grappling Federation. It's super cool. And again, ending the show, thanks to our sponsors, Charlotte's Web. You can go to charlottesweb.com, get the promo code Chewjitsu, save 15% on the order for any of the CBD products that you want there, to support you with some of the muscle joint discomfort, some helping you out with some sleep support, and just overall supporting, overall health and wellness. And then you can go to epicrollbjj.com. Again, check out some of Matt's stuff. And I call him Matt. Like, Matt's the dude that runs it. And it's a small company, and I just like that. I like supporting small companies, and I like even talking to, if I can. And I like when there's like a person behind it who's like sort of using their souls going into it, where it's not just like, like, for instance, I got a message the other day from a guy who was like, hey man, I'm coming out with a brand. Would you mind sharing it with your followers? And it was like, they just came up with some cheap logo, and they're just, doing a cafe press and that kind of thing. And I'm like, man, I'm not supporting this. Like, there's no soul in it. Like, you look at Matt's stuff and everything's unique. So again, everything that he has on his site is unique to him, that he's made. So you can check his stuff out at epicrollbjj.com. Again, promo code is Chewjitsu. And again, if you guys want to support the podcast and you want it to keep going, we do have some cool plans coming up with different guests and stuff like that. So a lot of fun stuff coming up. And again, it helps us if you guys support. Now, again, I know right now the COVID and the lockdown has money a little tighter than usual. So no harm, no foul if you can't do it. But if you have it available to you, if you got $7, if you can skimp on a latte and that muffin one day a week, or one day of 1 week, and you can do the rest with whatever you want to do. But that muffin and that latte, if you can skip on it for one day out of 1 week, you can pay for the membership, and you support the podcast, keep it going. And you can also get a ton of extra content that you can dig into should you want to do something like that. So with all that said, guys, I hope you enjoyed the podcast today, and we'll talk to you next week.